Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Nobu with Nobu, the All-American Shaman. Today, we're going to be exploring sound healing and all of the magical potential of frequencies. So maybe you could start us off from a high level. How do sounds affect us, whether it be physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional bodies?
So, going at the most base scientific level first, cymatics, the Greek word, refers to how sound shapes things. Um, so, if we expose a water molecule to different frequencies, we can see it in real time change its very shape and structure in accordance. Notice I said in accordance with the frequency. So, this also will tie in later as to how your thoughts shift yourself and how your physicality is a reflection of your mentality, which is then a shadow of your spirituality. So that's the scientific level of things. At a less dense scientific level, there's also the electrical aspect. Understanding that we are electrical beings and everything going on, again, has that frequency, referring back to the OG Nikola Tesla. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration, that if we modify one's electromagnetic biofield with these different frequencies, we will have a tangible downstream shift from the aura, again, the biofield, into the physical structure as well. And then from a more ethereal layer, we can interact with different elements. So like I have the fire element, we have smoke and air, and the different musical instruments correspond and correlate with these different
Yeah, so it
elements.
sounds like, sounds like, no pun intended, the sound waves really impact all the different layers at the same exact time. I'm trying to think if any other forces really act upon all those different dimensions simultaneously, but it seems like sound is able to kind of transverse and go between these realms you kind of don't really see on your energetic body, but also like the very tangible and physical body, like our cells and nervous system as well. Like the sound waves and those frequencies really can affect the structure and the behavior of all those different layers of our being. Is that true?
That is correct. Yes. Uh, One of the words you said was transverse and transcend, and that's quite accurate because also how distance healing is possible, right? When I'm on the phone with someone in India and I'm playing my different tools and they receive healing and tangible effects in real time, they're not directly, intimately in my space, right? Feeling the vibrations. In fact, most of the time they're just hearing them through the headphones, but it transcends all that. It transcends space and time. It goes on, forever. Really, it's just a matter of how far the wave, right, is perceptible to our dense
Mm.
five sense perception.
Yeah, I guess the less matter in between maybe would have a more immediate effect on the physical, but perhaps that more spiritual and limitless dimension where time and space are not the limiting factors. Then, like you're saying, then the distance almost doesn't matter how far away you are, like with the intention being carried through the sound waves being generated. And maybe that kind of brings another point on that intention, and then also just the way that certain instruments are designed. You mentioned the elements corresponds to the different instruments. Is that by definition the frequency with which the either the strings or like the drum kind of resonate at, and just like what those resonant frequencies correspond to with elements maybe like earth and water and fire? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. It's not. I still have to dissect and create my own understanding of this, but my off the hip shot of this is, the drum is lower, more that bass, which is more corresponding to the densest form of elements, which is earth, right? It is the most dense, literally, the molecules are moving the least rapidly. And again, that waveform of that drum is lower. And again, also correlating with our chakras is going for the root. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, the flute is a much higher pitch. It's got that more ethereal quality to it. And I was just telling you earlier, I associate it with more of the water element. The flute is extremely good at drawing out emotions from people, right? But it's not going to ground someone out. You use a flute to do a lullaby to calm people down to go to sleep, and you know, different ways of approaching it. It's not cut and dry, like I said, but the guitar, I would describe, and stringed instruments in general have more of a fire element to them, um, especially with the electric guitar, right? What is electricity? It's plasma, which is a supercharged version of the fire element. Extremely dynamic, right? And then the piano is more of a hybridization. We have elements of the string family and also percussion, but it provides a very wide range. Um,
How do you know which instrument would be most effective, or how is that decision made as to which frequencies to focus on or which instruments to utilize in order to obtain a certain outcome?
it's a combination of my own knowledge and experience and also just intuition and gut feeling. But I'll give you an example. If usually when I do a healing session, I just start off out the gate of intuitively doing what I feel they need overall to move the bulk of whatever negativity blockages they're having. And then at a certain point, I'll ask them, okay, let's go from head to toe and scan your body and see how you feel. And if they say, well, my stomach still feels tight, Nobu, around their solar plexus, then I know logically that 528 hertz tuning fork is going to be most ideal corresponding with the solar plexus chakra. Whereas if they say, well, my feet or my legs still feel really cold, I might use my drum again because it's more grounding.
Would it be accurate to put it in the framework of, so the chakras rising from the root up through the crown, and they have different colors associated with different frequencies and vibrations? Are you trying to almost like tune the chakra like you would tune a piano or something?
Spot on. It's a When performing healing on people, places, or things, right? It's not just animate beings that receive healing. Objects can become cursed. Places can become infested with different spirits. Again, like I told you, these energies that reside in all things. Um, it can be a combination of times of bringing it back into the proper pitch, right? So by using a pure tone, bringing it back into resonance with what is correct. But at other times, it's the metaphysical way of the opera singer shattering the glass and that's how rife frequencies operate. For example, they kill cancer cells or other malignant cells by matching their frequency at the point in which they shatter and are completely
Yeah,
discombobulated.
I've been seeing
I think I got everything there.
posts online of like the research going into like ultrasound, and I guess like you're mentioning, you have to kind of tune the output and the sound to the correct frequency in which to target tumors and cancerous cells, so that like the glass with the opera singer is a great metaphor there. It's like they can't really handle it anymore, and then they just like explode. And it seems like there's a lot of very successful outcomes from these studies showing that you can pinpoint and use, obviously non-invasive as far as not using a scalpel and cutting people open, to remove some of these cancerous cells, which is pretty crazy. And kind of along with seeing posts like that, I was researching online, and then there's a Reddit thread that, of course, is the epitome of factual information, is Reddit threads. But it was a thread called like, "Is this bullshit?" And I think people are just almost like dumbfounded, like, oh, can sound be used to cure cancer? Like, can sound be used to heal the body? And most of the people were like, oh, it's got to be bullshit. Maybe it's just, the relaxation that comes from listening to healing sounds that causes these results, and then relaxation allows the body to heal. Maybe what are your thoughts as far as, is it the body getting to a state to then heal itself, or is it the waves kind of doing the heavy lifting?
It's a combination.
Okay.
It's not all one or the other. Um, some people would even argue, some people have the perspective or thought that a healer is just someone triggering the own healing process within their another person's organism. I personally don't hold that belief because my practice is a little bit different as well. I also take on and remove darkness or attachments from people and consume them myself, or transmute. Um, so yes, part of it is the frequencies literally shattering or destroying malignant cells, right? That's why Dr. Reif's work was destroyed, uh, because there are cures for cancer and there are cures for Lyme disease. It's very potent. I told you the other day how I was testing out some right frequencies and I had an excessive amount of bowel movements because of the frequencies, killing off candida. And for a while, I was having some itching on my scalp and my ears and my body at night, which candida and other parasites tend to come out at night. And since purging myself with those frequencies, I'm not having any more itching or the like anymore. Uh, Furthermore, I want to touch on something else. I want to go back a little bit. Sometimes with people, depending on how sick they are, it means I have to, before I can bring, like, if the guitar's out of tune, right, and we first, start plucking the string, it's going to sound really flat or sharp. It's not going to sound pretty. It's going to have a lot of discord. And in if I need to bring someone back into balance in a certain energy, I might have to start off really deep in the pit. So, for example, if they have a lot of anger and rage and grief, I might be channeling that. Most likely, I will be. And so, the beginning of the session might start off really dark and more ugly, more abrasive. Might be some resistance to the very healing work happening, which is why I always tell people all they have to do is breathe and feel. That's it. But then as we get things more adjusted, I adjust it. Okay, now I brought them too sharp, too far to the right. Okay, adjust it again. Okay, too flat, bracketing until eventually, and I know generally that they are fine once I feel fine, because once I've created that connection with them, I am in the pits. I am in the trenches
Yeah,
with
yeah. It's
them in a
and I think
sense.
you sent me this link with the interview of, was it Alan Wolf? Was that his name? The shaman and physicist. But he was saying that the approach that he learned, how shamans do their work is, they will encounter someone who is in need of healing, and they will kind of like feel into their energy and start resonating like with them at their vibration, which would be one that is of need of healing. And because the shaman has gone through so many different times and experiences where they needed to heal themselves, they, as they resonate with that frequency of the patient, so to speak, then they can kind of heal themselves at the same time healing their patient, and like, I guess, bringing back into coherence both of those energetic fields. Is that a similar kind of belief and practice on your side as well?
Spot on. And this is also why it's really important that people see their healing the whole way through. I have a very vested interest when I work with people that they get their healing, because if I open a portal between the two of us during a healing session, whether it be short term in the course of 22 minutes or the course of weeks, which I have different methods of doing such, if they make poor choices and don't listen to the protocols I prescribe of aftercare, and if I've created a direct link with them,
Mm.
I suffer as well. And I have fallen ill many times because I bite off more than I can chew. You know, which again, this comes back to the whole Terence McKenna quote of, "The shaman is not a madman or a sick man. they are a sick man who has cured themselves and who must continue to shamanize in
Mm.
order to remain cured. So it's really important for me that again, when I'm dealing with sick people, right, and even if it's just over the phone, I can still, again, I'm resonating with their disease. And if I don't bring them into coherence, you think of like the electrical charge, right? If I don't bring balance to them, I can depolarize myself, and then I can fall
Yeah.
off and
Yeah,
get
which I
hurt.
guess, the incentives are aligned, which is good. It's that you're kind of in the boat with with the person that you're working with. So there's an alignment of goals there of having the sessions be successful and you getting them to a good place of health and well being because you're kind of right in the boat there with them.
Correct. Which also, again, probably not going to stop ragging on allopathic medicine, but this is also why I feel as if shamanism is really the way to go, because your doctor has no vested interest really at a core
Right.
personal level for you to heal, right? But especially when it comes to a prolonged ceremony such as psilocybin experience over the course of 4 hours with somebody, you know, when I'm in the medicine and I'm in that space, like it is hard, and it is like it is a war in a way of where we're going through different layers and different valleys and you know different spirits come up in different trials, and it's it's a it's a joint effort, but one in which the
Mm.
shaman is ultimately responsible for, um, because if they don't get healing, it falls on me, and again,
Yeah.
I get depolarized.
Yeah, maybe to bring it back more specifically to sound for this episode. So we mentioned the frequencies that can provide healing, and they're kind of used with that intention. Um, on the other side of that, like what are some of the sounds and maybe environmental factors that, like kind of through sound, create some of these dissonance and discord and dis-eases that pop up in people's lives?
So we've already touched on EMF before. EMF plays a factor because, again, that's sound is a much more dense, perceivable by the ear frequency. But again, electromagnetic, UV, IR, thoughts are a frequency as well. These are just a more tangible way of expressing those things. If people are listening to extremely negative or discordant music, um, whether that be because it's tuned at 440 hertz and not 432, which most modern music has been intentionally tuned to 440, such as on Spotify and YouTube, um, and not 432. Just making that 8 hertz adjustment, half step down the scale, has a massive difference in the effect of the music. And then also the lyrics, obviously, because words all hold a frequency. So if it's F you, F that, F this, well, then you're cursing everything. And that will manifest versus when we, have more positive healing music vibrations, we have a much more positive effect as well. And then also, again, the people, places, things that people are around, the foods they're eating, these things all affect, their auric and energetic health as well. Because as above, so below. The physicality is just reflecting what's going on in the emotions and the brain
Yeah,
housing
yeah.
group.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that 440 versus 432, maybe we can take that as a research item on our side. 'Cause I think I heard from somewhere like when I was going through a sound healing course on. I don't I don't want to say this if it's not true, but like back when like Nazi Germany, they would pump through 440 because it made people like anxious and like revved up and like want to be super
Aggressive.
aggressive. And then it's like, well then
Mm-hmm.
why did like and then yeah, they took that as like the new standard to calibrate all the music to because they wanted their population to be like on edge. And now we've adopted that, like continued in modern society, like seems insane. Like why would we want to do that? So it's just something to to be aware of. I had no idea that that's on Spotify and YouTube, kind of like how their standard frequency adjustments were made as well. So it's good to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
that. Another thing that had come up when I was taking one of these sound classes was that Of all the instruments, the most powerful one is the human voice, which I thought was kind of beautiful, and also nice that it's available to anyone that is still got some functioning vocal cords where they can create their own healing. And actually, back when I was in school, we took a class and it had a case study of a hospital where they told a control group to like kind of just go about their everyday regimen as far as healing, but then the other experimental group was told to hum to themselves, like 5 times a day or something like that. And the humming group saw vastly improved healing compared to not humming. Could you maybe talk about what was going on there, and if you've seen that as well?
So at a dense level, humming or toning releases nitric oxide, NO, which is a potent vasodilator. It's antiviral, it's antibacterial. It calms down the nervous system. Um, when I first got into tuning forks, I learned about the major fifth of C and G creates a similar effect as well, or a tuning fork tuned to 128 hertz, which is a differential between C and G, um, applied to any area of the body, not this fork, but similar, can stimulate nitric oxide production and release. So when people are toning and humming, they're causing that, chemical release, which has a profound healing effect. Now, at a top layer, right, if someone is dealing with sorrow, let's say they can't cry, toning in the upper frequency range, almost kind of like a baby or a kitten, crying. It's in that higher range, can help them to remove that energy. Whereas if someone is having anger and those are things like going low and and again self resonating, right, with their own imbalances to bring
Mm-hmm.
it back into coherence.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, Interesting. So yeah, I guess would you recommend for any particular um folks out there like to do like toning and humming? Like, is it just when you're feeling not well, or is it just kind of part of like a daily practice that you would kind of recommend just to keep the systems kind of running, functioning well?
In an ideal scenario, everyone would be singing and dancing all the time and just, again, keeping themselves healthy and happy instead of resorting to the medicine when it's already, if you're
Uh,
sick, it's already too late. And I'm no foreign stranger to that. Again, I have to continually keep myself healed, otherwise I will get sick as well. But yes, and then one key note as far as the toning, which can increase its efficacy, is if people practice mewing, or at the very least placing their tongue to the roof of their mouth, their palate, when they hum, they then can experiment about driving the frequencies up into their pineal gland. And then you can also experiment with generating the sound from different areas of your body. For example, I can generate the sound from my forehead. I can literally feel most of the vibration in my third eye when I do that. Whereas if I go more from my gut, I feel it resonating more in the output from that chakra in that area of the body, which again, any good singer knows that singing is a full body, again, just like an instrument. The sound shapes the form, but the form also shapes the sound. So the reason why I sound the way I do is because I look the way I do. If 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 I looked like this and I sounded like, "Hi, my name's Nathaniel," right? Would that be a
yeah,
little
yeah.
discordant?
It's funny. It's like there are some folks that their voices don't match
It
their
would be.
appearance, and it's always like jarring. It's like, whoa, wait, that voice came out of that person. What the hell's going on? But I guess most of the time they match
Yeah.
up.
If you saw someone, yes, generally, I would argue, and it's funny too because when I was a kid, my voice was very deep and raspy, but I was 130 pounds soaking wet before I went into juvie. I got mocked for it all the time, but after I got out, I never got mocked for it ever again. People complimenting my voice all the time. I think again, my own sound was seeking to shape me into who I was to become, but I wasn't ready yet. Obviously, I hadn't grown into
Interesting. Yeah,
my
that's cool.
voice.
It was working on you. It was shaping you as every time you spoke. That word mewing, I've actually never heard that one before.
Yeah.
So that's like the process of putting the tongue on your roof of your mouth. Is that the definition of that, or is it more or less?
It's putting the tongue to the it's practicing facial
Okay.
posture, mouth posture, which has a very positive effect on breathing, can alleviate sleep apnea. It can also harmonize the facial structure. It's a very popular practice in the looks maxing community. People who do anything and everything to make themselves as aesthetic as
Gotcha.
possible
Cool.
to the
Thank
human
you
eye.
for the education. There was a new one for me. But yeah, the putting the tongue to the roof of the mouth while making the sound is actually in a pranayama instruction on the Brahmari breath, like the bumblebee sound. Like you're supposed to put the tongue in the roof of your mouth and then make that vibrating humming sound on the exhale, kind of aim toward your nose palate. So I think that's I guess kind of like an ancient knowledge that's included there, that's been utilized. Because I know when I first learned that Brahmari breath, I was like, wow, it feels awesome. Like it, it feels so good. Like you just get like a nice clear head and you feel very relaxed. So cool that you can kind of direct it in these different ways with that intention, sending it to the pineal or pineal gland in the third eye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But again, you can drive it anywhere. I mean, you could with enough focus and attention, again, you can drive the frequencies through your body to
Mm.
your knee. You know, you can again, I don't have the fork out currently, but some tuning forks are osteophonic, meaning they travel through bone. They can be used to
Oh
take
wow.
bone breaks. So if someone is self-healing or diagnosing themselves and going through different frequencies just with their own voice, and if they feel parts of their body of where the sound isn't traveling through, it means chances are they have
Right.
some blockages there, right? And again, water is getting shaped by these frequencies. So again, with enough practice and self-diagnosis and work, they can rectify their own tissues through the
Makes
power of
sense.
sound.
And like kind of the like we talked about at kind of the beginning of the episode with the cymatics and like the effect on water is a lot of that effect too because the human body is composed primarily of water that these effects are kind of so foundational.
Mm-hmm. Yes, again, that's the three-dimensional way of looking at this, right? Which it's simultaneously all
Mm.
layers at once. It's not just water being shaped, it's not just
Yeah,
electricity, it's not just astral entities and spirits. It's again all of it at
powerful
once.
stuff.
Some of the shamans of old would say when someone came to them sick, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? So I would encourage those watching and listening to be self aware of their own ability to make sound and move with that magic because music is
Mm.
truly
Yeah, that's
magic.
beautiful. Yeah, especially if if you have that joy within you to sing and dance, I imagine the spillover effects on just that energetic state that you're in will do wonders for health all the way around. So that's what a different world it would be if everyone was singing and dancing all the time. That'd be amazing. Any last comments you want to leave the audience with before we close out?
You are the music to which you beat.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Nobu. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.